He thought he knew power. He thought he knew control. Lee Minho, the undisputed boss of Busan's sprawling underworld, operated beyond the reach of law, beyond the grasp of rivals. His empire was absolute. But the single biggest threat to his reign, the one force that would ultimately bring him to his knees, wasn't a cartel in Bangkok, or a triad in Hong Kong, or the relentless pursuit of Interpol. It was a ghost, a devastating truth that had haunted him quietly for 5 long years.
The African woman he heartlessly dumped is back, and she's not just a CEO managing billions. Wait till you find out she's also managing a mafia gang that rivals his own, a syndicate known only in whispers and blood. Welcome to Afro-Korean Boss Empire. This is the ultimate tale of betrayal, power, and a second chance. The story of how a powerful crime lord lost everything, only to find the one woman who could save him was the one he ruthlessly cast aside. Kindly show your encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean the world to us.
The air in the Busan Royal Auction House was always heavy with ambition, but tonight, Minho could taste the desperation. He was here for one thing: a stolen 16th century Joseon Dynasty royal seal. Not for its antique value, but for the leverage it represented. For Lee Minho, this was a declaration of dominance. And Minho, by reputation and by nature, never lost. Minho spoke to Jae-sung, his chief strategist, in a low, dangerous rumble, demanding, "I want it. Outbid every competitor. The price is utterly irrelevant." Jae-sung, ever calm, warned Minho of the only serious competition tonight, a new consortium, Chinelo Global Acquisitions. Minho dismissed them immediately. Amateurs playing in a league far beyond their depth. They'll fold, they always do. The auctioneer called out the final high bid. "Do I hear 5 billion won? 5 billion! To the floor!" Going once, going twice. The bid was immediately countered. 6 billion, the voice declared. And Young, the muscle, whispered to his boss with sudden, primal unease. "Boss, that accent."
Minho's eyes, usually pools of icy control, betrayed a flicker of raw recognition. His jaw tightened. "I recognize it, but it's impossible." The auctioneer confirmed the shocking bid. 6 billion from the skybox. Chinelo Global Acquisitions. Do I hear any further bids? Minho, his voice a barely suppressed growl, commanded Jae-sung, "Find out who that is. Get me a name, get me a face, now." Jae-sung's fingers flew across the tablet. The consortium was heavily firewalled, but he bypassed the lock. He found a public photo, a security feed. For 5 years, Lee Minho lived with the ghost of the woman he pushed away. Now the ghost wasn't just corporeal. She had a name, a multi-billion-dollar bank account, and the terrifying power to not just break him, but to shatter everything he had built. Minho's voice was barely audible, a raw whisper of disbelief. "No, it can't be." The auctioneer brought the gavel down with terrifying finality. "Sold! 6 billion won to Chinelo Global Acquisitions!" It was Gozi Chinelo. The woman he had loved, the woman he had crushed, had just stolen his lifeline. This wasn't coincidence. This was war. Ngozi turned to her security detail, her voice a low, purring accent. "The seal is secured. Now, let's see how the old boss handles a small mistake." The boss was stunned, but the terror was only just beginning. Jae-sung,
staring at the tablet, his face pale, whispered a final, chilling truth. "Boss, the private files? I bypassed the firewall. The Chinelo Global Acquisitions Network? It's a front." Minho grabbed Jae-sung's shoulder, his eyes blazing. "What is it? Spit it out, Jae-sung." Jae-sung delivered the devastating news, the screen glowing with an ominous crimson. "Boss, she is running a shadow organization. They call it the Red Crown Syndicate."
Hung, the mountain of muscle, visibly flinched, his hand flying to his holster. The Red Crown? Boss, they're ghosts. They took over the Macau trade routes last year without a single shot fired. They're ruthless and utterly untraceable. Minho's eyes snapped back to the empty skybox. The full, terrifying truth of his mistake crashed over him. She didn't just come back to get rich. She came back to dismantle him. Lee Minho dumped her to protect his empire. Now that same woman is poised to burn his kingdom to the ground. But if she is truly a syndicate boss, why did she choose to face him in person? And why did her eyes hold a flicker of sorrow when she smiled? Tell us what you think in the comments below. The revelation that Gozi Chinelo, the woman Lee Minho had discarded like yesterday's trash, was not only a billionaire CEO but the shadow leader of the Red Crown Syndicate sent a tremor through Minho's entire organization. Fear was a commodity he usually traded in. Now he was paying the price. For 3 days, Ngozi didn't appear in public. But her presence was felt like a tightening chokehold around Minho's neck. Chinelo Global Acquisitions wasn't just buying up assets. They were systematically targeting Lee Holdings at its weakest points. First, they blocked the customs clearance for a massive shipment of luxury vehicles from Germany. Then they initiated a hostile takeover attempt on the Daehan shipping line, which controlled 2/3 of Minho's illegal freight routes. Minho was a man accustomed to war, but not this kind. He knew how to counter bullets, not hostile bids. He was trapped in his sleek, minimalist office, staring out at the Busan skyline, a kingdom that now felt like a cage. He was restless, pacing with a glass of whiskey, the liquor untouched. "This isn't war," Minho muttered to himself. "This is slow, calculated execution." He slammed his fist down on the glass desk. The silent siege was worse than a gunfight. He needed to look her in the eye. He needed to know if the woman he betrayed was truly gone, replaced by this ruthless queen. "Set up a meeting with Gozi Chinelo. Now. In my office. I don't care what you have to threaten," Minho ordered Jae-sung. The next afternoon, the large, reinforced door to Minho's private conference room opened slowly. Minho was poised to enter, expecting to find an empty room, a delegation of lawyers, or perhaps a subordinate. But she was already there. Gozi was seated at the head of the long, black marble conference table, the seat traditionally reserved for the owner of Lee Holdings. She was impeccable in a stark, crisp white suit, relaxed and composed. When Minho entered, his breath hitched. 5 years had sharpened her beauty into a weapon. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by an iron confidence. "You look surprised, Minho. Did you expect me to send a lawyer to do a woman's job?" Gozi asked, her voice a cool musical counterpoint to the room's tense silence. Minho swallowed his shock, his voice tight with barely contained fury. "This isn't a social call, Ngozi, and this certainly isn't your office." She leaned back, a cool, knowing smirk spreading across her lips. The arrogance that used to belong to him now belonged to her. "Oh, but it is. Every room I walk into becomes mine. You taught me that, remember?" Minho moved to the table, dominating the space with his presence, despite her usurpation of his seat. "I want the shipping line back, and the import license. You've made your point, now your office.
Now, Minho demanded, his voice raising slightly. Gozi didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head, delivering the line that cut him to the bone. You forfeited the right to give me orders 5 years ago, Lee Minho. I'm here to negotiate the terms of your surrender, not take directions. Minho had to force himself not to crush the antique pen on the table. You are going to regret starting this, Minho warned, his voice a low, gravelly threat. She stood, finally meeting him at eye level. I only regret not starting it sooner. Now, let's talk business. The shipping lines for control of your new Jeju casino venture. She extended her hand, not in greeting, but in declaration. Do we have a deal, boss? The deal was struck, cold and clean. The contrast was agonizing. 5 years ago, their hands had tangled in passion, not in a desperate business deal. Minho, reeling, looked at her face, searching for any trace of the young woman he once knew, the artist who used to laugh easily in his arms. He remembered their final fight. He, cruel and desperate to protect her from his world, had spat the words that ended her life as she knew it. You're soft, Gozi. Your reliability. My father would hurt you just to get back at me. Go back to state and paint. I don't need you, Minho had declared. Now, she looked down at the conference table, adjusted the cuff of her immaculate white jacket, and spoke, the years of pain hardening her voice. I took your advice, Minho. I stopped painting. I stopped being soft. She looked up, her expression cutting him deep. I learned to acquire power, just like you. Minho could only stare at her. The regret was a bitter taste in his mouth. I apologize, Gozi, for what I said, for what I did. I was a fool. She checked the expensive watch on her wrist, a subtle flex of her current status. Your apology is 5 years too late, Minho, and it's not accepted. I have other meetings that involve much higher stakes than your casino. Minho watched her leave, the confidence in her stride a brutal reminder of his colossal error. He knew he had to understand the scale of his enemy, who was also the love of his life. That evening, Jae-sung and Young met Minho in his secret underground control room. Their focus was Gozi Chinelo. Boss, her financial empire is flawless, Jae-sung reported, his face grim. Billions. Legitimate. But the acquisition trail for Chinelo Global, it's all built on the bones of failed, smaller criminal operations across Southeast Asia and Northern America. What about the Red Crown? Show me the syndicate, Minho demanded, his voice sharp with urgency. Hyung pulled up a highly pixelated, grainy surveillance photo. It showed Gozi, wearing dark, less formal tactical clothing, talking to 2 towering, menacing African men in a shadowy alley. This was taken in Macau 6 months ago, Hyung explained. She's hands-on. She's the one giving the orders. We've confirmed her presence at several cleanup operations. Minho stared at the image. She went from painting murals to orchestrating syndicate takeovers, all because of me. Boss, look closer at the man to her right, Jae-sung instructed, zooming in on the photo. His lapel.
The image clarified. A small crimson emblem, a stylized crown with a single red jewel, the mark of the Red Crown Syndicate. Minho's fist clenched. The woman who hated him was not just a threat. She was a rival boss, a queen operating in the shadows of his own kingdom.
Gozi is now a powerful CEO and a ruthless mafia boss. Minho betrayed her once to save her life. Now that she can destroy him, will she choose revenge or forgiveness? Will his massive mistake cost him his empire, or finally lead him to the woman he never stopped loving? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Minho's world had become a prison of regret. Gozi was everywhere, on the news, in the conference rooms, and haunting the edges of his syndicate operations. He now knew his mistake wasn't just dumping her, it was creating a powerful, beautiful rival forged in the fire of his own betrayal.
The tension became public, a chilling display of Cold War tactics. The entire city of Busan watched as the two largest power brokers, Minho of Lee Holdings and Gozi Chinelo of Chinelo Global, waged a silent, corporate war. The climax was set for the annual Busan Charity Gala, the city's unofficial declaration of elite status. Minho had to attend. It was a non-negotiable display of dominance. Gozi, naturally, was the guest of honor.
When Gozi walked in, the chattering crowd parted. She wore a stunning crimson gown, a symbolic contrast to the pure white she wore when taking over Minho's business. The color was a warning, a flash of the red crown in plain sight. Minho's breath hitched. 5 years ago, he'd bought her that color in a simple dress. Now it dripped off her in silk and defiance. They were drawn together like opposite ends of a powerful magnet. Their eventual meeting at the champagne station was orchestrated by a silent crowd desperate for drama. Minho spoke first, his voice low, intimate, a sound only meant for her. "You look breathtaking. The color suits you. It's lethal." Gozi didn't flinch. She took a sip of champagne, her eyes cold as ice. "Lethal is what you taught me to be, Minho, and I chose this color because it matches the stain your betrayal left on my heart." He tried to move closer, lowering his voice further. "I know words are cheap, but I regret every second of that day. Regret is a luxury you can no longer afford," Gozi cut him off, her voice still low, but dangerously sharp. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual kings to greet, not just pretenders." The public humiliation was total. Minho felt the whispers around him. His empire was being challenged, his history weaponized. But the corporate war was just camouflage for the conflict beneath. Minho watched as Gozi moved through the room, not just greeting CEOs, but performing subtle, intricate gestures, a slight adjustment to the tie of a notorious loan shark, a brief pointed look at the ring of a triad leader from Hong Kong. The figures that feared Minho now respected Gozi. She was flexing her red crown muscle in the most opulent, legitimate room in the city. The sheer audacity stunned him. She wasn't hiding the syndicate, she was legitimizing it, treating it like another corporation she managed. A few minutes later, Minho's phone buzzed. It was Jae-sung, his tone clipped. "Boss, your younger brother, Min-jun, he's been arrested. Fraud. The Chinelo Global legal team filed the complaint 5 minutes ago. It's airtight." Min-jun, Minho's only legitimate tie to the world, the sweet boy who wanted nothing to do with the mafia, was Gozi's chosen collateral. She hadn't gone for his money or his ports. She went for his family. The sheer audacity stunned him. She wasn't hiding the syndicate, she was legitimizing it, treating it like another corporation she managed. A few minutes later, Minho's phone buzzed. It was Jae-sung, his tone clipped. "Boss, your younger brother, Min-jun, he's been arrested. Fraud. The Chinelo Global legal team filed the complaint 5 minutes ago. It's airtight." Min-jun, Minho's only legitimate tie to the world, the sweet boy who wanted nothing to do with the mafia, was Gozi's chosen collateral. She hadn't gone for his money or his ports. She went for his family. The ballroom became a blur. The elegant music turned to static. Minho knew the rules of his world. Family was off limits. This was a direct, lethal escalation. He was cornered. There was only one person who could save his brother, and she was 50 feet away,
trading pleasantries with a Korean senator. Minho's pride, his empire, his dominance, it all crumbled. He walked toward her, pushing past the crowd. Gozi saw him coming. She stopped talking to the senator and waited, her expression softening infinitesimally, a flicker of that old sorrow returning to her eyes. He stopped in front of her, the great Minho, kneeling only for his ancestors, now stood utterly defenseless before the woman he dumped. "Minjun," Minho choked out, the name a plea. "Let him go. He's innocent. He has nothing to do with this." Gozi's eyes met his, and the sorrow vanished, replaced by a deep, weary resolution. "Everything has to do with this, Minho. Everything. You taught me that."
The next morning, Minho was waiting outside Ngozi's penthouse, a custom-built fortress overlooking the sea. After 3 hours, she finally allowed him inside.
Minho stood before her, not as the boss, but as a beggar. "Name your price. The ports? All of them. My entire casino venture. Take it, but let Minjun go." Gozi shook her head, walking slowly toward a massive, stark, abstract canvas. "I don't want your money, Minho. I want what money can't buy." She ran a hand across the sharp, angry paint strokes of the canvas. "I want my dignity back. I want you to know what it feels like to be completely and utterly powerless." Minho's voice was raw. "I am powerless, Gozi. I'm begging you. You've won." She turned, her eyes burning into his. "Not yet. I want to trade. I'll free Minjun, and I'll restore your import license. But in return, you will give me 2 things. First, you will come with me tonight to a place we used to go, and you will dance with me in front of everyone, and you will tell me, in public, that you need me." Second, Gozi stepped closer, their past connection sparking like a live wire. "You will tell me the real reason you dumped me 5 years ago, not the lie you told, but the truth that's been consuming you."
Minho closed his eyes, his control fracturing. He looked at her, and in that moment, he saw the artist, the love, and the ruthless boss all in one woman. He knew this deal would cost him his last shard of pride, but his brother's life was worth the price. "Done," Minho rasped. "You have my word. I'll meet you tonight." Gozi nodded, her lips curving into a complex, sorrowful smile. "Good. Now you should prepare yourself, Minho, because tonight we don't just dance. We relive the night you killed my heart." Minho is giving up his pride for his brother, but Gozi is demanding 2 highly personal acts: a public declaration of need and the buried truth about the breakup. Is this about revenge, or is she creating the scenario for a second chance? And what shocking truth about the breakup is Minho hiding? Let us know in the comments.
Minho's agreement to Gozi's terms was a surrender of pride, the ultimate sacrifice for his brother. That night, the air in Busan was thick with anticipation. The city waited to see which empire would crumble, unaware they were about to witness a confession born of a broken heart. Gozi's chosen destination was the Blue Lantern, an exclusive old-money jazz club, the exact location where she and Minho had shared their first dance 5 years prior. When they walked in, the music stopped. Every eye in the club fixated on the Korean boss and the African CEO, the 2 titans locked in a personal war.
Gozi walked directly to the center of the dance floor and waited.
Minho followed, his face a mask of cold fury. The jazz band hesitantly began a slow, melancholic rhythm. Minho took her hand, the familiar heat sparking between them, despite the ice in their veins, and pulled her close. Tell me, Minho, Gozi whispered against his ear, her voice husky with years of suppressed emotion. Does it feel familiar, the way you held me here, the night you told me you loved me? It feels like a trap, Minho ground out, his grip tightening around her waist.
It's a mirror, Gozi corrected, her eyes burning into his. Now, tell everyone here what you need. Minho stared at the crowd, at his enemies and his allies, at the men who relied on his pride for their survival. He saw Gozi's cold, demanding face. He closed his eyes, his voice cracking with the admission, I need you, Gozi. I need you to save my brother. I need you to stop this. A collective gasp echoed through the room. The undisputed boss had publicly conceded defeat.
The dance continued, the rhythm pulling them closer, forcing their bodies to remember what their hearts were fighting to forget. The moment the music faded, Gozi pulled him sharply off the floor and into a private, darkened service corridor. The second part of the deal, Gozi demanded, her face just inches from his. The truth. Why did you really dump me? Not the lie about me being soft. Minho leaned against the cold wall, his control completely shattered. His voice was raw, stripped of all boss arrogance. Because they were going to hurt you, Gozi. My father, the previous boss, had you marked.
Minho recounted the horrifying truth. His father had discovered their relationship and saw Gozi's heritage and artistic spirit as a fatal weakness. He gave Minho 1 day to dump her publicly and brutally, or his men would dispose of her privately and permanently. I had to make you hate me, Gozi. I had to convince my father you were irrelevant. I broke your heart to save your life. Gozi's cold composure fractured. She looked at him not as a former lover or a rival, but as the man who carried that horrific burden for 5 years. You chose to be the villain, Gozi whispered, a tremor running through her voice. I chose the path where you lived, Minho corrected, tears welling in his eyes for the first time in a decade. I watched you leave, knowing I was trading my soul for your breath. In that moment, the 5 years of pain, rage, and confusion dissolved. Gozi didn't see the boss who dumped her. She saw the broken man who sacrificed everything for her. She reached out, her hands tracing the sharp, cold lines of his jaw. Why didn't you tell me? Gozi whispered, the accusation now softened by sorrow. Because if you knew the truth, you would have come back, Minho admitted, his voice rough, and the war would have started anyway, and you wouldn't have been ready. Their embrace was interrupted by a sharp, urgent electronic alert. It was a coded message on Gozi's custom-built smartwatch. She pulled away, her eyes instantly shifted from soft to severe. Trouble, Gozi stated, her voice returning to the cool CEO tone. My East Asian freight warehouse is under attack. It's a rival syndicate. They thought I'd be distracted tonight. Minho's boss instincts immediately resurfaced. The snake tongue? I'll send Hyung in a team. No, Gozi interrupted, her eyes suddenly blazing with authority. I handle my own problems. She brought up a blueprint on her watch, revealing a hidden compartment in the wall. She pulled out a sleek, customized combat pistol. This is about more than money, Minho. This is why I came back. The Red Crown is not about revenge against you, Gozi revealed, her face resolute. It's about prevention. It was built to eliminate the threats you could never fully destroy, the ones that target the innocent, the ones who would have killed me. I needed power, Minho, so I built an empire that deals only in consequences. The Red Crown isn't a revenge plot, it's a shield. You're a boss, Minho whispered, staring at the gun in her hand. A queen. I'm a survivor, Gozi corrected. Now Min Jun is safe. Your debt is paid.
The deal is complete. I have a war to fight." She looked at him, her gaze intense. "Stay here, boss. This is my fight." Minho confessed his devastating truth, and Gozi revealed her syndicate is a shield, not a weapon of revenge. The threat is now external. Will Minho risk his life and his recently settled deal by breaking his promise and following Gozi into battle? And can their shared love survive the chaos of two mafia empires at war? Tell us what happens next.
Gozi walked away ready to fight her war alone, but Minho didn't survive a decade in Busan's underworld by following directions, especially not from the woman he was now hopelessly, completely in love with. The truth had set his soul on fire, replacing fear with fierce protective devotion. "She may have a shield," Minho muttered to himself as he secured his weapons, "but every queen needs a king to guard her blind spots." He contacted Jaesong. "Locate Gozi's warehouse, now. Send Hyung and 2 teams, but tell them to stand down and observe. We are protecting her assets, not engaging her people." The warehouse, a massive, isolated structure by the docks, was already a chaos of gunfire and flashing lights. Gozi and her small Red Crown team were fighting with brutal, clinical efficiency, using their knowledge of the building to turn the tide, but they were outnumbered by the rival Snake Tong Syndicate.
Gozi was a blur of calculated violence. She moved with the grace of a dancer and the precision of a trained assassin. Minho watched, stunned by the cold, lethal beauty of the woman he had sent away to paint. He was witnessing the empire he inadvertently created. But the snake-tongued boss, a scarred brute named Lee Jung-soo, finally cornered Gozi. Jung-soo raised his weapon, a cruel smile splitting his face. "The pretty CEO is finally finished." Just as Jung-soo pulled the trigger, Minho crashed through a nearby loading door, firing a warning shot that exploded the wall next to the rival boss's head. "If you want the queen," Minho's voice thundered through the warehouse, raw with rage and devotion, "you'll have to go through her king." Gozi paused, her shock instantly giving way to fierce pride. "You broke the deal!" Gozi shouted over the chaos, a flash of her old exasperation returning. "I broke the lie!" Minho roared back, taking down 2 men with ruthless efficiency. "I'm done lying to you or to myself." For the next 10 minutes, they fought not as rivals, but as a single, unstoppable force. Minho covered Gozi's blind spots. Gozi anticipated Minho's moves, passing him ammunition without looking. Their fighting was a more passionate connection than any kiss they had shared. The snake-tongue forces scattered and surrendered. Lee Jung-soo, defeated, stared at the 2 bosses, the Korean king and the African queen, standing together, united and invincible. As the sirens faded and the dust settled, Gozi turned to Minho. His face was streaked with sweat and soot, his tuxedo shirt torn, but his eyes were clear, radiating a love he had hidden for half a decade. "You came for me," Gozi whispered, touching the soot on his cheek. "I will always come for you," Minho promised, his voice thick with emotion, taking her hand. "I betrayed you 5 years ago to save your life. Tonight, I risk my life to show you that I never stopped loving you." The war was over. Minho had sacrificed his pride. Gozi had risked her life. Their empires, forged separately, now belonged together. A month later, Minho stood with Gozi on the rooftop of her penthouse, the city lights below them no match for the glow of happiness on her face. Minjun was free, and Lee Holdings and Chinelo Global Acquisitions had formally announced a strategic merger, creating the largest and most powerful conglomerate in East Asia, a move that terrified every criminal and politician in the city. "We won,"
Gozi said, leaning into him. The price was high, but we won. The price was the only thing that could have brought us here, Minho replied, turning her to face him. He reached into his coat pocket and produced a small velvet box, not with a conventional diamond, but with a red crown ring, forged in gold and set with a single crimson jewel. I don't just want a merger, Queen, Minho declared, his voice full of solemn love. I want a legacy. I want a family. Marry me. Let's merge our lives, our empires, and our kingdoms forever. Gozi's eyes filled with tears, her cold, powerful facade finally shattering. Yes, the answer has always been yes, my boss.
Their wedding was a private affair, a small, lavish ceremony overlooking the ocean. The most powerful couple in Asia finally exchanged vows, sealing a future where the mafia boss and the CEO queen ruled together. A year later, Minho walked into his private study. Gozi was seated behind his massive desk, her desk now, truly. A stack of confidential Red Crown files on one side and a brightly colored drawing on the other. "You're late for dinner," Gozi teased, her hand resting over her slightly rounded belly. Minho's eyes dropped to her stomach, his heart swelling with pride and fear. "I was just securing the Northport contracts. But I see the real future of our empire is already in development." Their love was born from betrayal, secured by power, and sealed by the shocking truth. Lee Min-ho made a big mistake when he dumped the African lady. But that mistake didn't cost him everything. It gave him the only woman worthy of sitting on the Red Crown throne beside him, securing his dynasty for generations to come. Besties, they got their happily ever after. But what name will they give the heir to the Lee and Red Crown empires? Tell us your favorite boss baby name in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Afro-Korean Boss Empire for more stories of dangerous love.